You may not have been here earlier, so let me just let you know that we are going to start with asking the candidates to give you their opening statements. They'll each have 2 minutes for that. We have our timekeepers in the front here who will be letting the candidates know when they have 30 seconds left to answer their opening statements and closing statements, as well as the questions. Each question they'll have 1 minute to answer, and they'll be told by sign when they have, well, that's when they have 30 seconds left. And then after that, if they keep going, they'll get the stop sign. So that's the way that's going to work. And we drew lots in the back to decide who's going to, what order the opening statements and closing statements are going to be done. I would really appreciate it if you would wait until each candidate has made the opening statement. When they're all done, then you can clap. And also, just to be sure that your cell phones are turned off so that we don't have any interruptions during the event. And I think with that being said, I think we can start. I'm going to go back over there and introduce the first candidate to make their opening statement. Thank you. Okay, Joe, please.
I'm not sure.
You can just sit. All right, you can sit. You don't need to, but that's okay. Go ahead. You're up now.
I got to keep working on that diet. And I appreciate that you didn't say my last name. That would
Pardon
take a
me?
long time. Yes. I'm Joe Krakowiak. I want to thank all the sponsors and all who made this event happen. I want to say thanks to everyone here tonight and watching the video somewhere in the future. My family has lived in West Orange for close to 20 years. My wife, Claire, was born and raised here. She left in 1980, but brought us and the kids, me and the kids, back in 2003. We just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. We have 3 children, all in their 20s, who, like a lot of you with adult kids, live at home with us. I have a journalism degree with concentrations in economics and finance. I worked at USA Today and was a stringer for the Wall Street Journal, which meant I reported and wrote sometimes, but didn't get a byline. Then, within an 18-month period, I got a wife, a mortgage, and a baby on the way. So I moved into PR and marketing, both working for companies, including a municipal bond insurer, and consulting. We moved to West Orange and loved the diversity here. It's such an interesting place to live. I say the world comes to West Orange. While here, I've coached a lot, soccer, basketball, baseball, and was active in scouting. In 2008, I was laid off for my job with a technology and management consulting firm. Rosary Morelli, who I understand is in the audience, asked that I take a look at some council meeting video and documents on downtown redevelopment. It took me a while to figure out that the words spoken at the meeting were very different from what the documents were saying. What they were proposing was very risky, with taxpayers potentially holding the bag if it didn't work out. I started speaking at council meetings and started a website focused on municipal government called West Orange Grassroots, some of you may remember. Eventually, people asked me to run for council, and I served for 10 years. I'm a proponent of term limits to keep it public service, not professional, so I term limited myself in 2020. I love this town, and I want to serve more. I know how the sausage is made, and I know we can do much better. I believe the keys to our better future are transparency and accountability, fiscal responsibility, and smart development. I'm the only one on this stage who has never voted for a property tax increase. The town faces significant financial transparency challenges, and with your help and work together, we will bring positive change. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan.
Good evening, everyone. my husband Joe and I invested in West Orange almost 40 years ago. I am a proud West Orange resident, honored to have been elected to the town council and excited to run now for mayor. We made West Orange our home, raising 3 children, all with different interests and learning styles, who went on to attend and graduate from the West Orange public school system. To this day, one of the catalysts that encouraged me to run for office when my children were young was meeting with the West Orange Recreation Director at a playground adjacent to Roosevelt Middle School. It was strewn with broken glass, dilapidated equipment. I organized a group of neighbors to join me in meeting with that director. He reacted quickly to our concerns, and the playground has been upgraded and maintained ever since. He set a role model to me as a public servant. I established my preschool in 1997 after my graduate thesis was published on developmentally appropriate educational practice. I was asked to teach as an adjunct professor at Montclair State University and Seton Hall University. The preschool just celebrated 25 years this summer. Invitations went out to over 1,000 students who have graduated from our program. Many have attended West Orange Public Schools, and I hear doing exceedingly well. Coming out of education, I found the land use process to open a business difficult to navigate. I joined the West Orange Chamber of Commerce to network with other business owners and to help new business owners navigate this process. I decided to run for council to assist business owners investing in our town. As Town Council Liaison to the Environmental Commission, I was appointed as the Township Sustainable Jersey Coordinator, focusing on conserving our environment, implementing energy-efficient programs to conserve our taxpayer dollars. I was steadfast in my decision to preserve 138 acres at Rock Spring Golf Club, 94 acres at Crestmont Golf Course, 6 acres at Ridgeway Park, and what is affectionately known as The Rock. I serve as the Town Council Liaison to the West Orange Arts Council, exhibiting the artwork of our high school students,
Thank you.
promoting workshops.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you to our hosts, to each of you watching live and in the future. I'm Councilman Bill Rutherford. This November 8th, I'm asking you to vote for me for mayor because I believe together we can build the premier suburb in the country, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I don't mean the county, I don't mean the state, but I believe together we can build the premier suburb in the country. Here's how. We're going to take a new approach to doing business in West Orange. We're going to put residents first. We're going to treat our public employees fairly. We're going to make sure that we lead on climate change and use technology to address our challenges. And when we do all of that, working together, we will build the premier suburb in the country. We have some wonderful assets here that when we take a town-wide approach to developing around those assets, together we can build something special. We've got 5 golf courses, a world-class tennis center, an equestrian center, 2 county parks, a zoo that gets over 1 million visitors per year. We have 2 national parks, both themed around Thomas Edison, one on Main Street and one in Llewellyn Park. And we have a rich history here that we can tell in new ways using technology. It's already been mentioned about our diversity. That is our strength. So when we build on those strengths, our diversity and our rich history, we can certainly build the premier suburb in the country. Now, are we perfect? No. Do we have some work to do? Absolutely. Downtown has looked substantially the same since I moved here 21 years ago. We have rising crime, as you can see from the headlines. And we have other issues that, if we tackle them together, we can face every challenge, face every single issue, and in the process, build a new West Orange. I'm Councilman Bill Rutherford. I'm asking for your vote this November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy.
Hello everyone, Cindy Matute Brown, Councilwoman, West Orange. I have some notes that I am going to reflect on, but I will ask that you look up my personal information on either my social media pages or my web pages. I want to talk to you about why I decided to run for mayor. This is my last term as a councilwoman. And yes, I am risking the seat. However, I made that decision because of the work that I have put into and have actually ushered in, and the changes that I've helped make in this administration. I'm very proud of those changes. The first town hall on the need for racially inclusive communities I held, because I did see that we are very proud to say diversity, but what resources are we giving our diverse community? We weren't. We are now ensuring that every elected official and every staff member at Town Hall has had anti-bias training. This is something that's very important to us when we look at staffing diversity and the contracts that we are giving out. I will also tell you that, like all of you, I seek a downtown that is vibrant and, most importantly, that has commercial ratables that will help provide relief from all of our property taxes. In that vein, I pushed this administration to make sure that we finally defaulted the failed redeveloper in downtown, and we are now poised to be able to look at the opportunity of 22 acres of redevelopment in downtown. I've also, as soon as New Jersey legalized and regulated the cannabis industry, I made sure we were ready, because that is a revenue stream that will help relieve property taxes. I'm running because I have the leadership ability. I have demonstrated my leadership ability by what I have accomplished, and I would like your support in moving us forward in continued progress. Vote for Cindy Matu Brown. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, may we hear it for the opening statement? Okay, so now, and we'll start with you, Cindy. What issues do you think most impact the seniors, youth, veterans, and mentally ill and disabled persons in West Orange?
I will say that, as everyone heard before, when we talk about inclusivity, we're focused on race and race relations. But the reality is that we need to focus on our senior citizens, because we do need to make sure that we make a community that's affordable for them to live in. Our youth as well, and I also want to talk about the fact that we don't include our uniquely talented individuals in town when we talk about inclusivity, and that's something that we must do, and it's something we can do. At Town Hall, we do have a program that needs to be supported in order to offer residences the opportunity to seek those resources that we're not giving our residents at this time.
Thank you. Susan.
Between COVID, the rise of economic challenges, and health concerns, I think mental health is an overarching issue on many individuals and families. As councilwoman, I commend the West Orange Police Chief, the police department, and our current administration to make West Orange the first municipality in New Jersey to hire mental health professionals to provide proper support to those in need when they're called out. I helped advance the grant awarded to the township for the long title, Partners in Health Aging in Place Incentives for Seniors, to create even more programming. I am part of I participate in the mayor's program for individuals uniquely gifted. I think I forgot the question. That's what I think. My thoughts were scattered. Please repeat the question. Tony?
Do you want me to repeat?
I do, I really do.
Okay, sure. What issues do you think most impact the seniors, youth, veterans, mentally ill, and disabled persons in West Orange?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying, that with COVID, the economic challenges, mental health concerns. Mental health is the overarching issue right now, and I do commend the police department and the work that is being done and needs to be done, especially with the Partners in Health Aging in Place for our seniors. And all of the programs at the library, with the schools being closed for so long, there are so many programs at the library that we can take our cue from.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
Thank you. Actually, serving the less advantaged in town is one of the 6 planks of my platform. People talk about diversity and how great it is in town. We have to keep in mind that if we want seniors to stick around, if we want them to age in place, we've got to stop making it more and more expensive for them, because most of them are on fixed incomes. I proposed, it's probably been 7 or 8 years now, to create a senior citizens advisory board to give seniors a greater voice in the town. Couldn't get my colleagues to vote for it, but I will push for it as mayor. One of the less advantaged are the kids that are served by the community house, the Boys and Girls Club. These 3 people sitting here took away their $40,000 annual grant and refused to give it back to them. I also wanted to, we have a program for adults who are mentally challenged, and I want to move them from a primarily social events situation to more skills training. Thank you.
Bill,
Can you please repeat the question again?
what issues do you think most impact the seniors, youth, veterans, mentally ill, and disabled persons of West Orange?
So that's quite a mix of groups, demographics in West Orange. I'll start with seniors, and we know, well, one thing that affects all of them is communication. We don't communicate well internally or externally in West Orange. For Exhibit A, just look at our township website. But for seniors in particular, taxes are an issue, and they're an issue town-wide. But for those on a fixed income, it is a particular issue. So as mayor, I'll make sure the town hall does everything we can to help seniors apply for and receive every tax benefit they qualify for. We can do better about helping them age in place and get the respect that they've earned. I'll do the same for our veterans, disabled persons, and mentally ill. And our youth, we certainly need to provide more activities and resources for them, especially given recent headlines. Busy kids don't get into trouble. Families that get the support they need have an easier time raising their children. And as a community, I think our budget should reflect our priorities. And if youth and seniors are our priority, we absolutely should reflect that in our budget. A senior advisory board is important, but so is a youth advisory board. Thank you.
And thank you. The next question, we'll start with you, Susan. Have you engaged and supported communities of color?
Well, yeah, let me start. I own a preschool. Diversity and inclusion and belonging is my business. I live and work and direct and teach on a daily basis in an environment that is a microcosm of our town. Over those 25 years, I have developed a working relationship for children to receive services, West Orange Special Needs Program. I believe my own personal experience with a special needs child encouraged this long-standing working relationship. For 25 years, I have garnered the faith and support of so many families in and around our community. Developing a diverse, inclusive environment with a sense of belonging is a philosophical operative that transcends the various commissions and organizations that I serve on and was not able to get in my 2-minute opening. I own a preschool. Diversity and inclusion and belonging is my mode of operation.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. I am a proud member of the West Orange African Heritage Organization, the happiest, funnest, partyingest community group in West Orange, and I'm glad to be here. I participated for 10 or 12 years in the Men Who Cook program, and any of you who have not been there, you need to come there next year. It's a great celebration of cooking with 30, 40 men, and a fundraiser for kids graduating from the high school and giving them scholarships. It's pretty hard to be active in West Orange and not run into people from, as I mentioned, all over the world. I was knocking on doors last week, and one young man who I taught how to play basketball can now vote. And I think that's wonderful. He's from Egypt, and they have a very different political system there. But it just is a demonstration of all of the people coming to West Orange and this idea of diversity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Absolutely. So in addition to saying the right things and voting in the right ways or ways that reflect my engagement and support of communities of color. I actually show up. When folks recently had an issue just yesterday, people in the neighborhood called me. And that's because I show up, I see them, I do events down there, I talk to people, I invite them places, and that's what's really needed to bring community. I don't speak Spanish as a first language, and I frequently have a difficult time communicating with folks that do. But I do everything I can to make sure we bridge that gap. Now, as pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, we have certainly supported local businesses, certainly in Orange and elsewhere, and we do seek out those that have been underrepresented in the past. And as mayor, I'll do the same thing. Last thing I'll say is our budget process should actually encourage the participation of minority and women-owned businesses. And we can do that by making sure that we have a database of all the businesses in town that qualify, so when we ask them for support, they actually have a resource to go to and get those contacts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? We were not, are we allowed to do a rebuttal? Because there was a question.
In other words, when you hear the answer to a question, and you want to respond to it, or want to focus on that person's response, just raise your hand and I'll see it.
Can I do that?
How much time does he have left?
No. Is it included in the time, or is it on?
It's included in, well, in other words, if you should have raised your hand.
So it was to a prior question, and it just you went right to the next one before.
But you're answering the question now. In other words, after the person responded and you said, oh, no, and you go like that, then I can recognize you wanting to rebut that person's answer.
So it was to a prior question, and we went to the next.
Just bring it up during another question.
Okay.
You can say, oh, by the way, she said, or whatever. Okay. You get it?
No, but it's okay.
Okay, but the answer is no, you can't do that right now. Okay, Cindy.
Thank you. West Orange, I want you to know that when I moved to this community, I did so because I have a blended family. My husband is African American, and as are my children, and Latina. I am from Ecuador, born here from parents of immigrants. And I realized early on, while we tout our diversity, we really weren't giving the resources that we needed or the attention that was demanded by our social ills. I started organizing rallies and protests to raise awareness in our community about the violence in our Black communities, Black and brown communities. That's something that we had not done before. Every time we showed up at Town Hall for a vigil, it was, and as we should, about violence in our other communities, but not in our Black communities. So it's what made me decide to run when the mayor said he didn't see color. I knew then he did not, and the council did not focus on what we needed as a community of color. I've also, more recently with the Cannabis Task Force, I charge my Cannabis Task Force members to only focus on micro businesses because that's where our participants and residents are. We have now the first African American women who will be a cultivator in town. That's giving back to the community and making sure that we're being inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. The rounded. Okay, you're gonna rebut her. It has to be Cindy. No.
Okay.
It has to be Cindy. Come on. With the minute that you hear someone say something that you want to dispute or rebut, that's when you raise your hand.
You didn't explain it.
No, I did explain. Excuse me, ma'am. I explained it to them in the green room, so to speak, so they heard the rules before they came out here. So. And you know you did, so let's not waste the evening, okay? Please. The next question will go to you, Joe. Name 3 things that you have done or accomplished in West Orange that you are most proud of.
Wow, that's a long list. The first one, I believe, is when I started up WestOrangeGrassroots.org, the town was running the videos of the council meetings on TV for 2 weeks, and then they disappeared down a rabbit hole. I bought the videos of the council meetings, I broke them up into 1-hour pieces, and I put them online at WestOrangeGrassroots.org, and I also indexed them so that people who had specific interests could go directly to those places. the town wasn't doing that at the time, but by the time I got on the council, they were doing it. And another thing I did was I was able to have a legislative victory where I was able to convince my colleagues to change the rules of council to give specifics about when we put the agendas and the legislation online so that people could see them. You don't know that now, but it used to be you couldn't see the legislation, proposed legislation, unless you went to the clerk's office or you came to the council meeting. So I didn't have enough time, but those are two things I'm very proud of.
Thank you. Bill?
I'll give three things in my brief tenure as councilman. First, I led on preserving 94 acres of open space, which is commonly referred to as Crestmont Forest. There was a plan to develop that into housing, and I campaigned against it, and as councilman led the effort to purchase it by the town. I also campaigned against turning Rock Spring into housing, and as a councilman have steadfastly advocated against it. We were able to keep it as an 18-hole golf course, not cut in half as a 9-hole course, and with extensive housing on it. Also, downtown redevelopment. That's another one of my campaign issues. I campaigned against turning it into housing. When I was elected, the mayor presented us with a plan to turn it into a warehouse. I advocated against that and worked. I'm the initial contact for both Mr. Diaz and the folks at Timberline, which got them to switch gears and agree to do something different there, which is now being brought to life. Thank you.
Just so that we're clear, okay? I know that Joe raised his hand to rebut during Bill's response, and so did you, Cindy. But as I told you back there, everyone has to answer the question first. Then I'll come back to you, Joe, and then to you, Cindy, okay? So Cindy, you can answer the question.
Oh, I'm next, I'm sorry. So three things that I am most proud of that I've accomplished in my tenure is, first off, ushered in a cultural literacy language in Town Hall that was woefully lacking. The other thing that I also did was made sure that I created a new revenue stream that will provide property relief from our property taxes by making sure that we were ready to participate in the cannabis industry. And that focus was strictly to focus on our marginalized communities so that they could benefit from what has always been the failed war on drugs and the impact that it has had on Black and brown communities. We have the first woman, African-American woman, who is a parent in St. Cloud, who will be cultivating in West Orange, and I'm very proud of that. And I also pushed our administration during my council presidency to finally default the redeveloper and PRISM, and when we were in court, I made sure that there were additional funds that were put into escrow. I negotiated that with the team to make sure that we had money for environmental cleanups.
Thank you. Susan?
So I am proud of the fact that I am a woman-owned small business for 25 years. Successfully for 25 years, not through COVID. I am also proud of the fact that as a Sustainable Jersey coordinator for the township, I have initiated programs such as the direct install program for energy efficiency upgrades in our municipal buildings. I have initiated a feasibility study with the West Orange Public Schools and New Jersey Clean Energy to install solar panel carports at our municipal plaza and the public schools. And I mentioned in the opening that I am really proud of being steadfast in the vote to preserve the 138 acres that is our Rock Spring Golf Course.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Joe, you wanted to rebut.
Yes, please. Thank you. Councilman Rutherford talks about the Crestmont Forest. What he doesn't mention is that these guys voted to purchase that without doing any due diligence. When I went over there, there are multiple tree stands where hunters were bow hunting deer. It was used as a dump, I assume, by the golf club with rebar, concrete, macadam, huge piles of grass clippings, and it's going to be substantial cleanup. There are 2 different regulatory investigations going on that property right now.
Okay, Cindy?
Thank you. I just did not want to discount the members of this community and the Verona community who did come out and advocate for the preservation. We even had the mayor of Verona on our town hall call with respect to preserving it because of the concerns, obviously, that development would have caused. However, it was an effort that was the council's effort as a whole. And Councilman Rutherford was appointed as a liaison to that specific settlement because that's something that I helped implement. Okay, I see the time's up.
Okay, Bill, you requested rebut?
Sure. Just with regard to being the liaison, that means that I attended every single meeting, every single negotiation with regard to purchasing that property. Now, I think we need to be clear about the question, though. The question is slightly flawed. Success in part is determined by proximity and support of the mayor. I'll give you an example. I worked with the New Jersey Red Bulls to get them to donate 5 soccer mini pitches for free to West Orange, and all we had to do was sign the donation acceptance letter, and our mayor refused to sign it. So success is determined in part by proximity to the mayor.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, Bill, goes to you. Is there a loop, center, or place where our young people can go to recreate themselves safely?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is there a loop, in quotes, where our young people can go to recreate themselves safely?
So while we do have multiple parks in town, I am the proud parent of 3 daughters, 2 of whom are old enough to hang out on their own, and generally speaking, they don't hang out in West Orange. They generally go to South Orange, Maplewood, Montclair, Livingston, or Millburn. And so while we do have some spaces, we certainly don't have enough, and none of them are conducive to young people hanging out and having a good time. When we had one at Essex Green, we had a movie theater there, and young people would gather every single weekend. And then what do? We turn it into an adult movie theater with alcohol being served, which minimizes the opportunity for young people to gather. So we can certainly do better in that regard. Main Street is our next step, and I think if we do that properly, we'll have a Main Street that we can all be proud of and patronize on a regular basis. Thank you.
All right, I've been told that Susan raised her hand to rebut.
So what I wanted to say was that we voted unanimously to preserve the 94 acres at Crestmount Country Club because we voted unanimously to vote on the 94 acres because there was a conceptual plan that was being presented. It was because of community outcry. There were 300 units proposed there. There were tax appeals on the property, and that's why the town council voted unanimously to purchase that property. And the comment that was just made, about the Red Bulls, that was presented to the Open Space Commission as an initiative.
That's enough. Thank you very much.
Without any partnership
Thank you.
or request.
Thank you. Cindy, I'm going to repeat the question for you. Okay. Is there a loop, center, or place where our young people can go to recreate themselves safely?
Unfortunately, at this time, there is not, but the plan for the downtown redevelopment, like I said, it is a potential of 22 acres. That means new roads, but also the discussions about, and this was not my idea, but one of our residents, Roz, who's always wanted to implement a mini Liberty Science Center type of place, a technology center that will attract not just families, but the youth, that they can, participate in activities that they are fond of engaging in, but also recreational areas in downtown that are green areas for them to be able to, patronize in the area of downtown, because it is needed. We do have great parks, but we absolutely need some green space also in downtown, and I think that'd be beneficial, whether it's a soccer fields for young people, or I know everybody likes to play pickleball, and this is for the older, younger people, but it is something that's necessary, and we have to make sure that I'm sorry, I did not see my time.
Thank you, Susan.
I would say the first place to look is on our website or go to our West Orange Public Library. There are a vast array of programs that are available in a safe environment for our youth of all ages. That's where I would start if we are looking for a safe environment. With the new downtown redevelopment project that we are considering, there is a film service overlay district proposed there. And right adjacent to the Thomas Edison National Historic Park, there are outstanding programs for our youth to participate in our recreational facilities. Though we did not pass our capital improvement, there is a 5-year plan that I would reintroduce as the administration, as mayor, I would reintroduce our capital improvement budget to refurbish our recreational facilities.
Thank you, Joe.
We've got a lot of recreation facilities and fields in both free and pay. We've got athletic, different athletic programs, thank you. All over the place. People can play tennis, people can play basketball. It's true that there's not a central place other than perhaps the community house where a lot of kids hang out in the open periods to play basketball, and there's a lot of stuff to do here in town. We're right, the movie houses have gone towards more of adult and requires underage kids to have guardians, but I coached all kinds of leagues, basketball, soccer, baseball. There's a lot to do here, even if you're not an athlete. You've got all kinds of parks just to hang out in.
Okay. And Bill, you wanted to rebut?
I did, and it's the point that Mr. Krakowiak made regarding the community house. I tried to rebut it earlier, I wasn't able to. I voted against that because the community house refused to provide financial statements. The financial statement we asked them for is very minimal. It does not provide great detail, and everyone else that we asked for that statement provided it. It is irresponsible to continue to fund groups that refuse to share their financials with those that are funding them. Thank you.
Yes, two things. First of all, let's look at who it really hurts. It hurts the kids, the less advantaged kids, who no longer have the $40,000 to fund counselors or programs. And as long as we're rebutting, Councilman Rutherford talks about he fought against housing for downtown redevelopment. He seems unaware that he voted for a change in zoning that has huge, high-density residential in the zoning for downtown redevelopment. Just thought I'd point that out.
So, Mr. Krakowiak clearly doesn't understand what I stated. I advocated against turning the entire Barton Press lot into townhomes. That would have been a waste of an opportunity to build a safe, clean, green, walkable, renewable, sustainable downtown that we can be proud of. Now, yes, in the current overlay zone, there will be some housing, but it is certainly not going to be 200 plus townhouses given the film services overlay district, which is the focus of that development. Thank you.
All right, the next question is specific, and it goes to Cindy. What are your plans to increase services to our seniors, specifically seniors? And what will these services be?
So I want to first acknowledge our Department of Senior Health Services, who are not only a tremendous asset to our community, but they were given to us by a grant. Laura Van Dyke is amazing. And we have recently added 2 positions recently in the last 2 years, and thankfully it was right before COVID because they were phenomenal in taking care of the senior citizens who were in need of shopping or any type of services, taxis or Ubers. However, I do believe that permanently funding the positions that we now have by a grant is something that's absolutely necessary, because we've seen that this effort from the municipality has actually been effective. So I think growing that department, and by growing I mean adding also people in the department so that they can have the capacity to actually oversee and work with a senior advisory board. Thank you.
Susan?
So I helped advance the grant application that Councilwoman Matute Brown just referenced. Township was awarded the Partners in Health Aging in Place initiative for seniors to create even more programs and resources for our seniors. And as mayor, I want to encourage our senior services coordinator and staff to extend our senior services, be it education classes, technology classes, mentoring, physical fitness programs, or townwide community events, and improve the communication process to distribute the information in a user-friendly, informative, accessible manner. While I have your attention, tomorrow night is trivia night at the West Orange Public Library from 6:30 to 8:30 for residents 55 and over. Just one of the many programs available.
Thank you. Joe?
I advocated for seniors shortly after joining the council, and one of the first things I did was propose the Senior Citizens Advisory Board so they can tell us on the council and the mayor's office what they want and what they need. And I think as soon as I get into the office, I'm going to try my best to get this created, formulated, and so they can start telling us what they need. I think transportation is a really difficult issue for seniors, particularly those who can't drive or can't drive at night. And for goodness sakes, safety, safety, safety. We have had accidents that have injured and killed seniors in our town in recent years, and we need to focus more, not just on what we can do to improve safety, but to actually follow through and do it.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Thank you. So specifically, what are the plans to increase services to seniors? Where Mr. Krakowiak and I agree is that we need a senior advisory board, and they should drive those decisions. But in addition to that, we need expanded jitney service to help get them around town, get them to the doctor's offices, the pharmacists, the ShopRites, and the Whole Foods, and wherever else they need to go within town. And we also have a unique opportunity at the golf course we recently purchased to use the pool facility there. There's a perfect opportunity to provide days for seniors only, or for disabled, or those that have IEPs, for example, at the school, or in special needs. Or we can do that at that pool with very minimal additional cost to the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, this question, oh, yes. Go ahead.
I just wanted to expand on that to say that I did not approve the senior advisory board, not because I didn't want that, but because I am the town council liaison to the senior housing board of directors. So I am a good listener, and I have heard for everybody. Okay, I have expanded the senior citizen transportation program to allow our seniors to shop outside of that ShopRite Essex Green Mall to now reach Whole Foods. I've increased our senior affordable housing by 64, just approving 64 units proposed at 46 Mount Pleasant Avenue. I'm a volunteer member of the Community
Thank you.
Emergency Response Team as well.
Thank you. Bill?
Just a point of clarification, the 64 units that have been proposed at 46 Mount Pleasant Avenue, the current site of the library, in all of the communication we have around town regarding that senior project, we talk about 64 units with the sole exception of the agreement we have with the developer where we talk about 40 units. I've taken a no vote against that recently because I'm tired of the township presenting information to residents and then once they get the support they need, doing something different. That is an issue at that project as well.
Okay, Joe, you first.
Thank you. 2 quick points. We have that senior housing only because we are closing the library downtown and moving it up to behind ShopRite. And it's going to make it a lot more difficult for people who really need access to information and computers. The other thing I want to say is that never mind.
Cindy?
I do just want to make a point of clarification. There is 64 units of affordable senior residences that will be at Mount Pleasant where the current library is, and it is true that that current library is moving. However, once the 64 units are built, there will be 7,500 square feet that we will be able to use as the mayor said, as a community center for senior citizens and or a library and or both, a satellite library. So just wanted to make that point clear.
Okay, Bill, and then we're moving on.
Thank you. That 7,500 square feet is another example of the township telling people one thing in order to get support and then doing something else. There is absolutely no discussion about increasing the budget for the library. There is no way to have a satellite library without additional employees. And it's time that we just tell people the truth and let them make their decision about whether they want to support it or not. I'll do that for you as mayor.
Okay, we're gonna have to move on. This is only the 5th question. Okay, so we can address this again some other way, all right?
I think the community spoke. I have been elected to the town council, and that was based on the outpouring of support from our community. So I do not agree with term limits because I think the community votes. That's what we encourage in voter registration. We want people to come out and vote, and that was the choice they made.
Okay, Joe.
Obviously, I'm interested in this because I actually term limited myself after 2 full terms. But it turns out that the state legislature, in its infinite wisdom, has prohibited any municipality from installing term limits until a bill passes the state legislature to allow it. But I also want to say that for those of you who don't know it, Councilwoman McCartney has been on the council for 20 years, and obviously she's not a proponent of term limits, but I think it's... But the point stands that there is a strong amount of evidence that getting new blood and getting people moving out in forms of public service improves government. It gives new blood, and it doesn't allow people to change their thinking. When you're just doing it for public service, you're doing it for the community. But when it becomes your profession, it becomes your life, it changes the way you think. You start thinking about getting reelected and staying in office.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Yes, I do support term limits. I think both mayor and council should be limited to 3 terms. I think if you have a grand vision, it will probably take you close to, if not fully, 10 years to execute. But again, as Mr. Krakowiak said, it is time for people to stop aging in their place as elected officials and make room for some younger and newer voices that may help move the town forward. Now, as mayor, even though it's a state law, as mayor, we can certainly advocate for that. And it's important that all of us do. There are 2 groups that I'm a part of, New Jersey Together and Building One New Jersey. And NJ Together actually takes on issues like that. And that's where we raise our voices, and I'm talking about all of us, to make sure that these kinds of things happen on the local level too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cindy?
Thank you. I want to start off by saying that I do believe that elections are service term limits, but I also am not naive to understand how sometimes, and I want to say this carefully, but entrenched politics and politicians influence a lot of what happens here, because of the funds that they're able to raise that other candidates cannot raise. So I do believe that we need term limits. I think 2 terms is enough, and I want to say that it's also dependent on the council that is comprised at the time. And as you all heard, the council members that are here, well, the council candidates that were up here a moment ago, they all support term limits, so I think this question is going to be answered by all of them when the new administration is sworn in.
Okay, thank you. And this next question, we're going to start with Joe. There is a rumor, I hope it is only a rumor, someone wrote, that a Target is coming to our city. How do you think this will benefit our community?
What's the answer?
What do you think think it would benefit if
Yes, it will be a tremendous benefit to the town. A, it won't be residential housing. We have plenty of residential housing. We don't need any more. B, Target is an excellent store. I visit the one in Vauxhall all the time. It provides employment opportunities and additional shopping choices for residents. I don't see any downside.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Thank you. So I'm excited for Target to join our community. Not nearly as excited as my wife and daughters, but I think they're a good neighbor. Now, what I think we should pay attention to, though, change is going to come to that shopping center. Shopping malls around the country are dying. And if something is not done there and something else done at Essex Green, don't be surprised if within the next 5 years, Essex Green presents a plan to the town to do some things there too. We need a mayor that is going to put resident interests first in all of those negotiations, not give away our tax base to the developers, work with them in a way that makes sense for us and allows them to be profitable so that in the end, all of us, the residents and the developers and the business owners, we can each benefit from a project by working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
I mean, that's really a question that we can all agree that will generate revenue, that will help provide relief from our over-reliance on property taxes. And the focus for me as a mayor is to continue to create new revenue streams that will continue to allow us to feel some relief from our property taxes. So I absolutely support Target. I'm not a Target shopper, but I know friends that are, and it would be beneficial to us to continue to seek out commercial rateables. Thank you.
Susan.
So we talk about stabilizing our property taxes, and we already see the improvements that are underway at Essex Green Plaza. So even at the Essex Green Mall, once the improvements are made, that will be a reassessment there that will definitely help to stabilize our property taxes. I was at the Technical Review Board when the Kmart Plaza application came before them. This was technical review. And there was no mention of Target at that time, but there was the discussion about improving the parking and the entire Kmart, what was the former Kmart Vaccination Center Plaza, plus adding 2 freestanding buildings near the Verizon building that's there right now, plus a total revamping of the parking area.
Okay, Joe, you wanted to rebut.
Yeah, just very quickly. I don't understand Councilwoman Matoot Brown's comment that that Target coming in will help our property taxes, because the owner of that building already pays property taxes, and sales taxes do not come to the township. It goes to Trenton. The other thing I want to mention about Essex Greens, Ms. McCartney was talking about protecting revenue. She's the one who voted for a 30-year tax abatement for Essex Green as some sort of incentive after the Essex Green owners paid more than $100 million for that property. That's 30 years of property taxes that we won't get, that we'll have to make up.
So just a couple of corrections. First, Mr. Krakowiak is right. Councilwoman McCartney did vote for the pilot at Executive Drive, not Essex Green, but she also voted for a $600,000 tax appeal, and so did Councilwoman Matoot Brown for Essex Green. I voted against it. I think we've got to stop doing that. And to Mr. Krakowiak's question about the property taxes at Target, Councilwoman Matoot Brown is actually right. The property taxes are generally going to be based on the revenue generated from that property. That's a part of the calculation, so we will do better when they do better. Thank you.
Thank you. And since Councilman Rutherford did answer what my answer was going to be, I'm just going to touch upon what Councilman Krakowiak also said about the executive drive vote. I will tell you that the reason that I did support that is because we are finding that these buildings are being emptied, and we were paying appeals back to, they were winning their tax appeals, and we're losing millions and millions of dollars year after year. I did my research from 2010 we have paid back tax appeals to the developer. And now that you see that 425 units are coming, Essex Green is now making sure
okay.
that they are
All right.
improving their services. So it is a win-win for us.
Okay, Susan,
Yes, thank
go
you.
ahead.
So Mr. Krakowiak he often talks about pilots. And pilots, he makes it seem like it's a synonymous to a tax abatement. A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. So the township is receiving revenue from those tiered and structured pilots. On our tax bill, 62% goes to the school board, 26% comes to the town, and 15% goes to the county. In case of a pilot, 95% comes to the town, 5% goes to the county. I really want to finish this sentence. Just wanted to address the misinformation that's out there.
Sure. I just wanted to point out that although Councilwoman Matu Brown says that she did support the executive drive development, it is important to understand that she was against it before she was for it. When I make a promise to you, I'm going to keep it. Thank you.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do, all right? This is my final word. We're gonna go to Joe, because he had his hand up, and then we're gonna go to you, and you're gonna have the last word on this one, okay?
2 points. There is nothing that will ever make up for the loss of property tax revenue when you give a 30-year tax abatement and your pilot. The pilot starts out usually around 10 to 15% of what they would be paying in property taxes, and it trues up over 30 years. So there is no way that we are ever going to make up all of the money we've given away. And guess who makes up the difference between the pilot and rising property taxes? You guys and me.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Thank you. I just want to say that, yes, initially when I came on the council, I was against it. I needed to do my research, and like with every other matter that comes before me, I analyze, I research, I consider, I look at the math, and absolutely, I voted no initially because we did not have enough time to have all of that information. I requested what we were losing in tax appeals. I requested the rent rolls. I made sure to look at everything, and when I felt that this project was going to be beneficial to the municipality, I voted yes.
Okay, thank you. No, that's it. We're going to move on now to question number 8. Okay. Okay, Bill? How will you ensure that all of the neighborhoods in town receive the attention needed? As a resident of the Valley, this audience member, the neighborhoods in town receive the attention needed. As a resident of the Valley, this audience member is consistently fighting for equity in services.
Yeah, so that's an issue that has been brought to me time and time again, whether it's garbage, parking, whether it's quality of life issues, whether it's how we spend our resources. There is a part of town that, whether it's real or not, and I do believe it's real, feels that way. And so we absolutely need to elevate their voices and consider them when we apply our services. But here's something we can do structurally. You know, we have 50,000 residents in 12 square miles. Towns much smaller than we, with much fewer residents, have many more council people, and they include ward councilmen. Now, I've not made that a campaign issue, but if you had a council person assigned to a ward that was being held accountable for what they did by the residents in that ward only, you would see different outcomes for different parts of town. Thank you.
Cindy?
Thank you. It's not just a problem in the Valley. We have that problem in what unfortunately West Orange has lovingly named, and I say that sarcastically, as the down the hill neighborhoods. The reality is that we have budgeted our way out of staff at Town Hall. We do not have enough DPW workers to send out to clean up areas. We don't have enough enforcement officers in our zoning and planning departments that can actually fine our neighbors who are, our landlords who are slumlords. However, what I do want to make sure that we all understand is that we are revitalizing the valley at this time. There is affordable housing units, 100% plus 100% market rate units that are coming up. That's going to give a boost to that area of the valley, but the reality is we need enforcement and staff to make sure that we're taking care of all of those neighborhoods.
Thank you. Susan?
I have to say I resent the up the hill, down to hill reference. I grew up on Hazel Avenue. And as a resident of the valley, I have worked tirelessly way back when, even when it was a neighborhood preservation program. We had a $500,000 grant to revitalize that area. Funds were pulled back during Governor Christie's term, but we continue to advocate. Luna Stage is there. We have the Arts Council Gallery and Arts Center there that exhibits, I mentioned before, work and performing arts for all to enjoy, all ages. The garbage, the street sweeping, even the cleaning, and the parking is an issue all over town. Just yesterday, I spoke to the business administrator, the health department. I discovered that there is a plan in place to start on all of those issues with the alphabet streets, referred to off of Rollinson, between Rollinson and Valley Road. And then we'll
Okay,
move
thank you.
over to the...
Susan, thank you. Joe?
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Oh, here we go. I agree that there is an issue. When I was a councilman, I don't know, the word got around, and I got a lot of calls from the neighborhoods on the eastern side of the town. I helped with parking, with lighting, with garbage, with traffic. And I told the people the same thing. You have to insist that you be treated equally with everybody else in town. You've got to reach out to council meetings and speak at public comment. You got to talk to the mayor. You've got to post on social media to build awareness. And you've got to register to vote, and then you've got to vote. And that's the formula. And in my administration, everybody in town is going to be treated equally, no matter where they live.
Bill, you wanted to rebut?
Yes, I think it's important for people to raise their voices and make their concerns known, but that has happened, and we continue to see the same kinds of issues in the same neighborhoods. So we certainly need a different approach, and if we continue to do the same things we've always done, we're going to continue to get the same outcomes we've always gotten. So we need someone who's going to be fair to everyone. That's in every neighborhood, and it's also with our town employees. It's also with our contractors and those that want to work with West Orange. We can be fair to everyone, and when we are, everyone gets better outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with you, Cindy. Some of our community members have had negative interactions with the West Orange Police. What would you do to build better relationships?
Thank you for that question. That is something that I have always focused on doing. Making sure that the morale in the police department as well, but also, like I said, when I held the need for more racially inclusive communities at Town Hall, there were asks that were made. It wasn't just, let me show you that I am holding a town hall, but since that time, all of our officers have had anti-bias training. We also have co-partners from the Essex Morris Mental Health Associates that ride with our police department. And I also made sure that during the time that we had our ask, that all of our police directives were made to carry the weight of an ordinance, because they are now ordinances. But also the last ask, and what we have passed, is a citizen policing review board. We have not been able to comprise it yet because the Attorney General's office has not given us the directions on how to train, but that is something that we did implement.
Thank you. Susan?
So I commend the West Orange Police Chief, Police Department, and the current administration to make West Orange the first municipality in New Jersey to hire mental health professionals to provide proper support to those in need, along with our police officers when responding to a call. West Orange also created the first in-state program called Operation Hope to help individuals receive treatment from addiction. I have been trained as an Operation Hope volunteer to conduct intake surveys for individuals seeking this help. I also wanted to congratulate the police department. Earlier this week, we hired 7 new police recruits from the alternate route program that was just put in place earlier this year.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I guess it's not unusual to have a negative experience when you're confronted by the police. The issue is whether the police are acting professional and doing their jobs. And if they aren't, the person who feels victimized needs to insist on equal treatment. That means they've got to make their concerns known. When I was on the council, people would come to the council occasionally and complain about treatment. Now we have, all of our police have body cams, and we should be able to check the claims and confirm them or not. And they also are going to have to build awareness, not just with the police. If they're not getting what they need from the police, they need to go to the county prosecutor, because that's the first route you should take with a complaint if the police aren't. But by all means, in the situation, do not act out, do not complain, comply with the police, and go after it later. You do not want to have a confrontation.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
So this is an interesting question. It's certainly for communities of color, because there's a history of being mistreated by the police. It's also common in poorer communities as well. So here's some thoughts. One, we have dwindled our police department down from a high of 122 officers to 91. We have fought them at every single turn, or at least the administration has, and has created a hostile environment between the police and the administration. And we need to do better than that. And they're human too. So if they're having a difficult day, they're going to likely not perform at their best. So let's start by increasing morale and treating them fairly. But here's the other thing. I worked with a young, outstanding senior in high school, Bara Meritu, who led us, and I helped him get a civilian complaint review board in town. He made his presentation before the council. Chief Abbott was supportive of it, and we will implement that. So when police do step over the line, we need a mechanism to hold them accountable, and I'll do that as mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Susan. Will you pledge to hire and appoint qualified candidates who reflect the diversity of West Orange?
Well, I think that goes back to my opening statement that I own a preschool. Inclusion, diversity, belonging transcends what I do in town. It will be, I just mentioned that we just hired 7 police officers recruit through the alternative route program. I'm not going to read their names, but they represent many nationalities in town. So, as mayor, I would review all of our hiring.
I just want to clarify that earlier I asked the question about people of color.
Okay.
So now I'm asking who reflect the diversity of West Orange.
Hiring practices that do reflect exactly, that's where we're moving in that direction. I would continue, I would review all of our hiring practices to assure that. And as you can see, as I just mentioned, hiring 7 new police officers that fit that bill, plus bilingual employees that are now employed in town hall.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
Like most of us, I want to see more diversity at department head level and middle management. And what that means we have to do is redouble our efforts to do everything we can to cast the broadest net for qualified applicants. Everyone gets an equal chance No nepotism, no cronyism. Our residents deserve the best qualified employees for their hard-earned tax dollars.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you. I think we can start that process with the mayor this fall, November 8th, vote Rutherford for mayor. But I absolutely do pledge to hire and appoint qualified candidates that reflect the diversity of the town. That's not just along racial lines, but it's also for our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. It's also for those that are native born or immigrant, wherever they may be. We can open up the doors and get the best qualified people working here. Now, there's some folks that will say that, but you can also look at people that have done it. As pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, pre-COVID, we put over 4,000 people in employment through our job fair. Almost all of those people were poor and people of color. So when folks say they can't find good qualified candidates, point them to me, because I've got them. Thank you.
Cindy?
Thank you. So, can you hear me? I feel like okay, thank you. So, I'm not waiting to be mayor. You hired me, you voted for me to govern, and that's what I've done in the last 4 years. We have implemented to make sure that we are recruiting people of color. We, in fact, in our law department, when we were looking for a planning board attorney or a public advocate, I spoke to our township attorney. He said, how am I going to do that? Okay, well, we have the Hispanic Bar Association, the Black Women's Bar Association, the Garden State Bar Association. What I'm telling you is that I have already started this process. Our public advocate is a young man who was born and raised in town. His name is Sarab Tapar. He's Southeast Asian, and I'm very proud that we are moving in that direction, up to and including that when we are putting things out to bid or even requesting professional service contracts, that we are sure to give an additional point to those companies and organizations that have provided anti-bias training to their members. It is something that we have to do. It's something that I've started to do and I will continue to do as mayor.
Okay, Bill, you wanted to rebut?
I just wanted to point out that there's a long list of positions in town hall, specifically senior leadership positions, that have never been filled by a person of color or a woman, and it's time for that to change.
Okay, one more. Go ahead.
Thank you. I also want to remind the community that we are a civil service town, so that there are some requirements that we have to be very cautious of. It's not a matter of just focusing on specific genders or race, but there is certainly a way that we can recruit to make sure that we are representing that diversity within the confines of a civil service community that we are.
Okay, Susan, quickly.
Yeah, I wanted to add that as council president, I have had the public information officer talk about the job openings. They are on our website. If anyone is looking for a job or knows someone that is looking for a job, please visit the Human Resources Department to see the job openings that are available. They will be posted and announced.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have time for 2 more questions, and then we're going to have our closing statements. It's 9 o'clock already. Yeah. So here's a question for you, Joe. Is the Edison project development a success or failure? And why aren't there any more than one business in that complex? And how full is the residence?
That's a much longer answer than 1 minute. It's a financial and a planning disaster. We gave them a 30-year tax abatement, so you know where that's going. It's going into our pockets. They have no incentive to fill those places because they just pay us a percentage of whatever their revenue is. So it's no skin off their back. The Phase 2 is a disaster too. It's a transparency black hole. These guys start talking about reimagining downtown, but they won't tell us what they're doing, and we can't see into their brains, so we don't know what they're reimagining. But they've spent $20 million or borrowed $20 million to buy property down there when they don't have to, and they paid $12.5 million to Prism after they defaulted them, and after almost 15 years of abject failure. And it is a disaster that needs to be fixed. We've got to stop this secrecy to negotiating with one potential contractor and open it up to bids.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, so I agree with Mr. Kukoviak. It is a difficult question to answer in a minute. We've been reported that it's 95% occupied, but if you drive by there at night, it doesn't look that way. We didn't get fair value for what we gave them. When it came to the pilot they were awarded, we allowed them to back out of their agreement or not honor their agreement. They were supposed to give a jitney to the train station. It never happened. They were supposed to have 44 units of affordable housing there. That never happened, and we didn't enforce it. So, and it's a planning and design failure, if you ask me, because you can't get from the front of the building to the parking, which is going to limit what types of restaurants and other shops you can have on the front. So we can do better than that, and I think as mayor we will. Look, we can't redesign Edison now, but we can certainly make sure that we don't make the same mistakes twice. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you very much. So I can't agree that it is a failure. I will tell you that we are receiving more income by way of pilot payments than were originally anticipated because the facility is 100% full in residential. However, the storefronts unfortunately did not start getting to be leased until we defaulted them. That was intentional because we could not continue to let them sit aside and waste our tax dollars. So the plan was to, and to Mr. Korviak's point, was to seek out someone who was willing to invest, and we now have that opportunity. And as former Councilman Korviak knows, we can't discuss negotiations in public, but the film studio overlay was done because it is a very competitive industry in New Jersey, and I want to tell you that we are the closest to breaking ground. I know you're all reading what's exciting news that's happening all over Essex, but we're there. We're there.
Thank you. Susan.
Okay, so just last Friday, I spoke to a new retailer ready to invest in that retail space. COVID, economic downturns, that has held up for quite some time. And at the Juneteenth event at the public library, I did speak to a person ready to invest in a restaurant in that space. Not what was initially proposed. He has a new idea. I am excited about the Film Service Overlay District. I see that as an economic infusion in jobs and property values in that area.
Thank
And
you.
I have to go back, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this about the Edison Lofts pilot projections. They were initially projected at $698,000 and it currently pays $1.2 million to the
Thank you,
township each year.
Susan. Joe, you wanted to rebut.
Right, it's a characteristics of tax abatements and pilots that you never get the money that you would otherwise have gotten for in property taxes. The pilots there started at roughly 15% of what they would be paying for in property taxes, and then it trues up over 30 years. You do the math, and anytime there's a shortfall between the pilots and rising taxes, we pay the difference.
Okay, Bill.
Mr. Krakowiak is right when it comes to missed payments via pilots. We'll never get that money back, but he's wrong when he says it's over 30 years. It can be whatever we want it to be, and that's just a function of negotiating a better deal for West Orange residents. I do recognize that Councilwoman McCartney is absolutely correct when she gives us the numbers that we're receiving from that pilot, and it is significantly more than anticipated. The problem is the anticipation did not include these ridiculous rents that we're paying in 2022. So, and the initial plan was based on selling those properties, not renting them out. So there's a lot of things that went into that calculation. At the end of the day,
Bill.
we can still do better.
Thank you. All right, Susan, quickly.
Okay, just a sentence. Currently, before it was developed, the assessed value of that site was $11 million. It is now worth $55 million. So I think it was a wise investment.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, all right. I thought you wanted to.
I'll be glad to rebut.
No, I thought I saw
I'll be
you.
glad to rebut. More, when you say more payments than expected, it doesn't even compare to the property taxes that were supposed to be paid. And Councilman Rutherford mentioned the 44 units of residential. The council majority, including Councilwoman McCartney, allowed Phase 1 PRISM to push off paying for their affordable housing into the second phase where we are now,
And now we don't have anybody that has an incentive to pay for that housing except us. We may wind up having to pay for
All
that.
right, this is it. Cindy, Susan, we're done. Cindy?
Okay, thank you. And I will agree with one point that Mr. Kokorviak said, is that the council at the time did deflect those affordable housing obligations for phase 2, and now we are stuck with those. So we are going to have to fund those. That is the biggest mistake this council has made with that project. However, it is an opportunity for us, and I want to remind all of us, when I moved here over 20 years ago, it was a building that was not paying a lot in taxes, and then it was a hole in the ground for many, many years, because while it was put out to bid, no one wanted the project. So it is the best situation and scenario that we could have expected at this time. But we do, I agree, we will be developing that area, and it will increase in commercial growth and revenue. Thank you.
All right, Susan?
So the township has a rehabilitation housing program that at that time of that development, though there were no affordable units proposed in that site, phase 2 did have some funds were allocated for the rehabilitation housing program in accordance to our fair share housing element.
All right, thank you. All right, this is the last question, and this question, there are no rebuttals allowed. But you'll see why when I ask the question. Okay? A little levity, a little lightness. Okay, here's the question, and who's next? We start with, okay, it's going to be Bill. You're invited to a costume party. It's Halloween, and you must come dressed as a superhero. Who do you come dressed as, and why?
Is it who do I come as why? All right, so I'm not really a superhero fan much anymore. I'll answer the question this way. This year, I am going to dress up as Ted Lasso. For those of you that have watched the show, you will know, and certainly I was encouraged by my wife and my daughters. You know that he's a soccer coach, a football coach in Europe, and he has a way of looking at the world, even when it throws him lemons, even when everybody misunderstands him or accuses him or bothers him, he still finds a way to work his way through with a smile on his face and help some other people in the process. Now, that may be considered a superpower or not, I don't know, but that's what I'm gonna do this Halloween.
Thank you. Cindy.
That is a very tough question, because I love Halloween, and my neighbors will tell you that I go all out. However, for superheroes, that's a tough one, because I don't follow the Marvel or any of the other ones, so I can't tell you. But I can share with you a role model that I would certainly like to always introduce. It's someone that I admire, and it's Audre Lorde. She was someone that I greatly respected reading her work, because it was during a time where women from the LGBTQ community, women of color, gay men, were just so marginalized and so maltreated, if you will. She talked about the projects and how they were by design, and that really got me interested in learning about what did that mean, what policies that are we able to control. And for those of us who don't really understand why there is a generational wealth gap, this is something that we have to discuss. So for me, she is someone who I admire, I respect, and I would certainly, she was a woman way before her time, and certainly someone that I'd like to emulate.
Okay, thank you. Susan.
Let's see, for a costume, wouldn't be a costume, it actually would be something that I would strive to actually do. Be an inventor like Mr. Latimer at the Thomas Edison National Historic Park. I want to ask Joe Fagan, I know he's here, to put a historic marker there. He was one of Edison's muckers, and continue to invent for Edison all through the night. I just think that that would be something. I know you're saying I've been on the council for too long, but I still am full of fresh and new ideas, and I would like to continue to do that.
Thank you. Joe?
Well, those of you who participate in some of the kiddie parades during Halloween, you know that my favorite costume is a big sword through my head. And I just stand there and just ask the kids for aspirin and tell them I have a terrible headache. But to specifically answer the question, I guess I'd have to do Thor for two reasons. Number one, I used to have long hair when I was a teenager, and Thor has long hair. And also, he is always looking to protect his home and his community. And something just strikes me about that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that you didn't mind being put on the spot that way. So, thank you so much. Thank you. And now we're going to start with the closing statements. And
So let me take this opportunity to thank the West Orange African Heritage Organization, the West Orange Hispanic Foundation, and the United Asia Voices, and our league moderator, Tony Zimmer, for putting this together, and all who are able to attend and view from the leisure of your home. As a long-standing small business owner in town, as mayor, I intend to use my leadership experience, creative energy, and my problem-solving resourcefulness to lead West Orange forward. I am running for mayor because I want to attract new businesses to town by creating a strategic marketing office. My work as Sustainable Jersey Coordinator has set a path for me, as your mayor, to present West Orange as a sustainable placemaking community for our residents with our services, recreational facilities, our volunteer organizations, and townwide events. I believe I am most qualified. I believe we share a common vision on equity, safety, and accountability. And as mayor, I will pursue the goal of representing the township with honor and integrity, respecting and understanding the importance of satisfied employees and residents that embrace and promote the strengths of our township. The 40-foot mural on Main Street with Edison's quote, "What you are will show in what you do," is why I am asking you to vote for me, Susan McCartney, to be the first female mayor of West Orange on Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you.
thank you. Bill?
Thank you. Thank you to all of our hosts tonight. I'm deeply appreciative for the opportunity to share my thoughts and vision on the issues with you. And I'm clear that West Orange really cares given the size of the turnout tonight. I'm asking you to vote Rutherford for mayor on November 8th because as a pastor, I believe love is love. Who you marry should be up to you. As a pastor, I believe that abortion is health care and a woman should have the right to choose. As a pastor, I believe gun control is needed. And I think it's time for us to elect leaders that actually do and act in the ways that they say they will, and that is my commitment to you. Now, based on those statements, you can see that the world is fragile. In addition to those things, we have high interest rates, high inflation, we're likely in a recession. If we're not careful, we're going to have to really pay some big bills because state aid and county aid will go down. If we're in a recession, you'll have higher foreclosures and lower tax collection rates. So we would have to make up the difference. We're going to need someone with solid financial experience to lead us through what could be very tough economic times. Now, I spent 23 years as an asset manager, 13 of those years building my own firm. Most of that time was right here in West Orange as a registered investment advisor. I have a degree in economics. I'm also the pastor of a church, and I use the little budget that we have to meet the needs of the community. And I think that's what we need from a mayor, someone who can help us fiscally and who also has a heart for people. So I'm asking for your vote, because I think we'll all do better when everyone is treated fair, and I think we need someone at the helm who can help guide us through what are some unsteady times. Thank you, West Orange.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. Thank you. I was surprised that we didn't get much financial questions tonight, but I just want to point out to Councilman Rutherford that all three of the other people on this stage voted to issue $62 million of debt just last year. And the two women to my right, over a 3-year period, voted to issue $113 million in debt, raised our outstanding debt by 77% in the middle of a pandemic, a recession, rising interest rates, and rising inflation. And our debt service, what we pay to repay the debt and to pay interest, has ballooned as well. It's almost $9 million and likely to go higher. We have got to stop this borrowing. It's not that hard, but all of these guys are the ones that have gotten us into great financial difficulty, and I don't think they're the people to get us out of it. I push transparency and accountability, smart development. We need a full-time planner with economic development experience, and no more tax abatements. We need to protect our environment. We need to buy the Mount Pleasant Forest to protect all that area underneath it. There's an application pending before the planning board to cut down something on the order of 525 trees from that area, and it's just going to cascade erosion and water down to Crest Ridge Apartments, which has a rock face similar to the one at Northfield Avenue that failed last year. I agree we need to hire police, we need to take care of our less advantaged, and we've just got to do better. We've got to do better. We need more responsible government, more responsive government. We need to do better. So I ask for your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy.
Thank you, and I'll ask for your patience as I wrote this out earlier and just want to make sure that I touch every point. So thank you to all of you who came out to support just becoming better, more informed voters. I really appreciate you all being present. Thank you to all of the organizers and the volunteers who assisted those organizations to make sure that we're hosting informative forums. So here's what I'm asking you, West Orange. I'm asking voters in our town whether we want a leader who will end the insularity of our municipal government, who will advocate for our residents to get more state funding for our schools, who will actually work to reduce the pressure on property taxes in ways that can actually matter. I am asking voters in West Orange whether we want leadership and governance that will understand what we own and what we owe, and will create a plan to reduce debt, raise revenues and resources so that we can maximize our own investments in our town. I am asking voters in West Orange whether we want leadership and governance that will look out for residents in every part of town, and who believes that as we raise the prospects in the often forgotten corners of West Orange, that the prospects of every resident is raised. I am asking voters in West Orange whether we want leadership and governance that will forge relationships with the school board, the county government, and with the state government to make sure that we don't leave money on the table and that our property taxpayers must then cover. That happens now. I am asking voters in West Orange whether we want a mayor who wants to make a difference and decisions based on facts and not politics or optics, or on who we may benefit or who may suffer. We need to be done with the fear-based politics, and we need to be done with the cronyism. I am here tonight to ask for your vote. If you vote by mail, and you will receive the ballot this week, you will also probably receive a letter signed by some of our neighbors explaining some of the reasons why they support my candidacy. I hope that you will read it, and I hope that you understand that when I am mayor, we will truly be working together to make West Orange, was that 2 minutes? Wow. Please visit my website. Be sure to vote for Cindy Matute Brown for mayor.
Okay. Thank you so much, and please, let's give them a nice round of applause.
Please stand and welcome our mayors-to-be. And I thank you all for coming out. And if you'll wait a minute, I'd like to take a picture. Is that okay? This was videotaped, and you will see it. It will be on our website. It will also be on 07052 Just go to our website and you will see it again too. You will see it in its entirety. Thank you all again for coming out. I really, really appreciated it. Yes. Yes, and please don't forget to vote. There was some voter registration information back there for those of you who did not, or have not registered. Want to say anything? Yes.
I would also like to thank Yvonne for doing a fantastic job coordinating with the three organizations. She's worked very hard, as we all have. So I just publicly wanted to thank Yvonne for that, for all her efforts during this time. So thank you, Yvonne.
And thank you to Felix and to Fanny. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming out. This is wonderful.